Casey was my last pregnancy, and I knew at around 18 weeks that she would be my last pregnancy. I should have been able to enjoy that last moment, but I could not because of all the unknowns and the what ifs. I still had the gender reveals and the baby showers, but I was just there. I was just existing. I had complete previous, so it completely covered the top of my cervix. And then later on was diagnosed with accreta, where my placenta had embedded into the uterine wall, and there's a high bleeding risk with both of those conditions. Depending on the depth of the accreta, and they weren't really sure at the time. They couldn't differentiate like my bladder line and my uterine line, so they didn't know if my placenta had actually went all the way into my bladder. I couldn't go very far from the hospital because if I went into labor and my cervix started opening, I could have bled out before I could have even got to the hospital. Everything like me and my immediate family were going through, we kept very close. So that was a lot of weight on my husband's shoulders mostly. We tried very hard to hold it and keep those emotions from even our older children. He was terrified that he was going to be he was going to be alone raising 3 girls. They had no idea the risk until the night before I had Casey. We kept it from them completely, but I did not want them going in completely blind. We set them down the night before, and I explained to them the risk that I may not come home. I had this perfect child who was healthy, so I should have been happy, but I wasn't. I literally planned like videos for my children for the future when I was pregnant, just in case I died. It was almost like survivor's guilt. Like I lived and I didn't plan that, so what do I do now? I fell into horrible depression after everything was said and done because I felt like I was robbed. I was robbed of my pregnancy. I was robbed of any future children that I didn't even know I wanted. And honestly, probably didn't want until I couldn't make that choice for myself anymore. I was just trying to live day by day, like is all I could do. I did the bare minimum. The biggest thing is when you go through what I went through and what a lot of women have went through, is we're not okay. Every time I was asked, I'm fine, but I wasn't, and no woman going through that is. So those questions need to be asked, and it needs to be more than, how are you holding up? Because they're not. When they leave, they're crying on the phone with their best friend, their husband, because that's who I called every time, and I cried my whole way home. Because it's a lot to deal with. Our C-section rates are incredibly high in the South. In Arkansas, I was one of those numbers. I am a statistic. I was in rural Arkansas and had a C-section at the age of 19. A lot of women don't understand the risk when they have previous cesareans, and so if we can prevent that, then we can prevent what I went through. Is it out of convenience? Is like, what's the reason behind it if there's not a medical one? And I really feel like our young women need to know that it's not necessary. If it's not medically necessary without a reason, you can refuse it. Don't just jump in because you're tired of being pregnant, because 10 years down the road, it can cause you more problems than you've ever imagined.